Our topic reminds me of a fantastic movie of Errol Morris, Fog of War and 11 Rules of Mr. McNamara. And one of them is maximize efficiency. So we are going to speak about the strategy of EU in the Black Sea and the Black Sea region. And I'm so proud and happy to present my fantastic participants. Marko Mihkelson, MP, Chair of Foreign Affairs Committee, Estonia. You're welcome. Ivanna Klympush-Tsinstadze, Chair of Verkhovna Rada Committee on Ukraine's integration into the EU, Ukraine. Coseru, Chair of the Committee on Foreign Policy and European Integration of Moldova. Rémi Duflot, Chargé d'Affaires AI of the EU Delegation to Ukraine. And super experienced politician, Michał Kamiński, Deputy Marshal of Senate of Poland. Welcome. I would like to start from a small question, and for 2-3 minutes to answer with what do you think? What is the main key points of European Union strategy in the Black Sea region? Rémi, if you may start, and I give you my mic.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being here in this wonderful building. Let me just say, as a matter of very, very early introduction, that we have a project that is protecting this building from destruction, and that is in particular protecting it through the application of glass film on the windows. It is important, and reinforcement of the window frames, so that it can resist shock waves in case of a nearby explosion. And I think thanks to that, we still have a very entire and whole building today, after recent strikes. So I want to thank the Ali Foundation, which is working with us on this fantastic project, which is also used for other historical places in this wonderful city. My second thing will be about answering this question, right? And it's easy because the EU adopted its Black Sea strategy 2 days ago. So now we know what is in there and we can disclose it in a very official way. There are essentially 3 components. It's a strategy that, as any strategy should be, does not focus only on the short term, how to address the security challenges of today. It is how to build resilience, how to prepare the region, the entire region, Ukraine, of course, in the first place, but not only, to the long-term challenges that have been revealed by Russian war of aggression. And there are 3 components there. The first one is about enhancing security, stability and resilience. That security is really at the heart of the strategy, but there are also 2 things that are linked with security. One which is more the consequence of security, which is how to foster growth, prosperity, wealth in the region. We have already a region where all countries around the Black Sea region, except Russia, have a GDP that is slightly more than Russia's GDP itself. So how to make it more, I would say, capable of being in all dimensions, economically, but not only able to resist Russian pressure. And the third and final component, and I will end up on that, is about how to increase preparedness, how to increase civil protection, how to increase climate change, resilience, and also environmental protection, which since the war started 3 years ago has become a real issue, as you know. No, I'm not talking only about oil spills, but about animal life and about the conservation of the possibility for the littoral countries to continue their, what we call blue economy, like fisheries or other sea-related activities in a safe and sustainable manner. I will stop here. I think what is important here is that we have one strategy. It is not only one document that will change the world. It is part of a whole string of documents, of strategies that the EU has started putting in place to prepare, to increase its resilience and the resilience of its closest neighbors and candidates to Russian pressure and aggression. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael, the floor is yours.
So, thank you very much, first of all, for inviting me again to Odessa. That's a wonderful experience, as always. And I would like to start answering the question by asking myself a question. First, what is the main obstacle in the Black Sea region to make this region great again? To make this region prosperous, peaceful, and normal? It's one factor, which is an obstacle to this goal. It's the Russian Federation. So if you want to speak about the future of any region which is bordering the Russian Federation, if you want to speak about the future of this region, you cannot, you just cannot ignore the fact that Russia today is a fascist and imperialistic state. So the solution of the problems and the strategy for the Black Sea, it's as Napoleon said, first you are solving the main problem, you are attacking the main enemy, you are tackling the main issue. So the main issue in this region is instability created by Russian Federation. And you cannot ignore this fact, because any other issue, including mentioned above ecology, is deeply connected with the fact that Russia is a fascist and imperialistic state and it's occupying Crimea without any legal reason. And that's the fact. So our strategy has to be focused on diminishing the influence of the fascist and imperialistic country which is under the name of Russian Federation acting in this region. Secondly, there is a growing issue from the moral point of view and from the geopolitical point of view. When we are talking about the Black Sea strategy, this is Georgia. Europe is based not only on economical interest. It's not even based only on pure, however very important, geopolitical interest of all its members. But Europe is based on values, and it's very important. We have to defend European values inside and outside EU. That's true. And Georgia is one of the examples when the people are literally dying for European integration. Actually, Ukraine is the first example of it, because Ukraine is fighting a war because of Europe, because of the perspective of European integration. That's also a very important fact, which is a challenge for Europe. Not a burden, but a challenge. Because for the first time in Europe's history, we see the people who are ready to suffer, who are ready to give their lives only to be members of the same family we are members of. So our strategy has to be focused on helping Georgian society to be with us, not to be under Putin's-like regime. That's the second point. And the third point, which is obviously geopolitically important today, how it was in 19th century, the control of the straits. It should be in the NATO hands, how it is today.
Thank you, Michael. Ina, you're welcome.
Good afternoon, distinguished audience. It is an honor for me to speak on behalf of the Republic of Moldova at this event, which is dedicated to enhancing security in the Black Sea region. In the city of Odessa, which is a symbol of resistance, but also a strategic place in terms of enhancing the security in the Black Sea region and interconnection in terms of history, geography, but also shared European future for our countries. Ukrainians are fighting bravely on the front line to protect their European democracy, while Moldova is fighting on the front line of hybrid war. And it is important to see as one element of the Black Sea security strategy the Transnistria region, which is not only a so-called frozen conflict, which was never frozen because it was a laboratory of hybrid tactics which were applied on the whole region and in the Republic of Moldova, and we've seen the escalation and amplification of all these tactics, especially during the last presidential campaign, which happened in Moldova last year, together with the referendum on European integration, but which was positive due to the mobilization of the pro-European electorate. And we understand that this will continue to happen. This year is very important for the Republic of Moldova in terms of parliamentary elections, and we need to assure the pro-European majority in the Parliament of the Republic of Moldova in order to continue European integration. But what we understand very well is that this window of opportunity, which was opened by this brutal war, which was started by Russian Federation in Ukraine, it's a very narrow window of opportunity. And then we need to speak in this strategy and in other strategies which aim to enhance the security in our region, to speak about the acceleration of the European path, the acceleration of European integration in Ukraine, in the Republic of Moldova, and apply the new instruments which would allow this to do. Because otherwise, the fatigue among the pro-European electorate would amplify in our countries, and the window of opportunity will be more and more narrow. So for the Black Sea security strategy, it is important to continue to counteract all the instruments which are applied as elements of hybrid war. We've seen what happened in Romania. Moldovan mobilized for the last presidential elections, and we democratically exposed our position in the presidential elections. Romania is a gate to European Union of the Republic of Moldova. Yesterday we were talking about Romania at this event, and Romania needs to be a part of this strategy of the Black Sea security strategy. And also we need to find solutions quicker, sooner than later on energy sector, and foster interconnection projects and projects in building resilience and independence of energy sector, because energy sector is one of the main elements of propaganda and destabilization in our region. So these elements are very important, and I would finalize by thanking Ukrainians for bravely resisting and protecting the European democracy and European values. Slava Ukraini! And looking forward for Moldovan parliamentary elections. And as we mobilize and we're solidar and united around the idea of being together with Ukraine, I am sure that the same way we need to be together with the Republic of Moldova during the parliamentary elections, together with Georgia, and try to counteract all these elements which are looking to destabilize the political situation in our countries, and to take the control of our efforts. And our efforts are all oriented to enhancing the stability, the security, and bringing the peace in the whole region. So thank you very much. I will stop here.
Thank you, Ina.
Then we can have a discussion.
Ivanna, you're welcome.
You know, can you imagine how successful the Black Sea Forum is? Black Sea Security Forum is that the European Union has actually managed to prepare the Black Sea security strategy right before the forum, that we can actually finally discuss it here. I think it's a great success, and congratulations to our colleagues. But on a more serious note, I already am welcoming that the EU has actually come up with a strategy, and as Rémi has mentioned, that this is part of the wider variety of documents that is going to show the kind of strategic vision for the European Union. But I already see like at least 3 soft spots in that strategy, and maybe that is something to be further developed. One of them is actually something I think very critical and very important for this region. I do not see any pillar of democratic resilience in that particular approach of the EU, of the strategy. And I think that you cannot really be successful if you do not come as the European Union with also the values that have been guiding the whole community up till now. That's one thing. Secondly, and here I totally agree with what Michael was saying. Russia is the elephant in the room, and definitely I think it has to be very clearly outlined in the strategy that deterrence, including military deterrence of the Russian Federation, has to be part of that, of its influence in the Black Sea, of its military force projection in the Black Sea. That has to be part of the approach of the European Union, from my perspective. And there should be some synergy, from my perspective, in the approach between the EU and NATO in this particular region, because we cannot be successful, I think, if we are not engaging if we are not engaging Georgia or Turkey, for that matter, in this effort. And thirdly, I think that somehow this particular strategy is missing something, again, very, very important. The thing that you said, that this is not so frozen conflict in Transnistria, those protracted conflicts like South Ossetia, Abkhazia, well, it's connected with all the Russian influence there and Russian military force projection, and again with Russian appetite and imperial appetite. But this is not there at this particular moment. So I think that this is a good first step, but I think we from here, from Ukraine, and from the region can actually add a lot in our, probably I think very realistic vision of the security of the Black Sea and the potential for real, for real defense of the European interests in the region through also this additional lenses.
Thank you, Ivanna. Marko, the floor is yours.
First of all, thank you, dear organizers. It's great to be back in Odessa, and it's really an honor to be first time in my life on the stage of opera. It's and in such a beautiful building here in Odessa. But just to sum up what was said, and I fully agree that what EU did just 2 days ago is a remarkable step forward. It's one small pillar to make this region, Black Sea region, prosperous, really kind of hotspot for further development, not only in the region but also on a global level, because we all know that what is going to happen in coming years or decades, hopefully in years in the region, will have impact not only for countries who are here around Black Sea. It's very close. I think the cooperation between Baltic Sea countries and the Black Sea countries are eventually very important, but has a really global impact, because I really would like to see now that Europe has paid a lot of attention to how to put together a strategy for peacetime. Because this strategy, what we're talking here about, what was adopted 2 days ago, this is more or less about, you know, for times when situation is calm, stable, and Ukraine has won this war. So what we need today, what we really need to put together, and I really argue that this is our primary goal as a EU members or members of free world, is to put together finally a strong strategy to help Ukraine to win this war. Because only when Russian imperialism is defeated here in Ukraine, in Georgia, in Belarus, we can really talk about free, prosperous and successful Black Sea and Black Sea strategy from EU side. So I argue that the root cause, we hear very often nowadays this term used by Russians. Yes, of course, we have to deal with root causes of this war and instability in the Black Sea region. I think the best way to really make sure that root causes are treated is that Ukrainian flag should fly above Ukraine, every territory which is still occupied and illegally annexed, including Crimea. And while in the Baltic Sea area, where I'm coming from Estonia, we are happy to see how integration, both within the EU and also latest enlargement of NATO to Sweden and Finland, had made our area, our Baltic Sea, much more stable and much more let's say, stronger in terms of cooperation between countries. This is exactly what is needed here, and this is where cooperation between EU and NATO, which is actually highlighted in the strategy, is essential. But we have to make sure that Black Sea will be a sea of democracies, and this is why the primary goal is to help Ukraine to win in this war.
Thank you, Marko. Especially for this, all the democracies need to be united and to fight and to win one autocracy, which we have in this Black Sea. My second question to Michał. Is the European Union able to resist Russian aggression without American support? When will Europe wake up, and what defense strategy does it have? Michał, what do you think?
I thought it's to my friend from Estonia.
No, to you.
So this is a very good question, and the good part of the answer, because the answer is much broader, the good part of the answer is that partly Europe already woke up. And you just recently, you had this enormous and absolutely historical decision of German government and German Bundestag to increase and actually to change well-established German tradition of not, making debts as a state, and that they are actually changing the game in terms of defense spending. It's a game changer, what Germany did. But it obviously will take time. Since that moment, Poland also actually changed a little bit the game. We are right now, as we are speaking, we are right now, as Poland, #1 buyer of American weapons on American market. We overjumped Saudi Arabia last year. So Poland, Germany recently, we woke up. But obviously, the example of a war in Ukraine is showing us that without United States of America, we cannot effectively defend Europe. As for today, what it means for us? I think it means for us that we should strengthen the European integration in the field of defense and security. It's very much needed. This is one of the fields of European integration that actually we are much more behind. We are integrated in many ways, and I find it fantastic. I'm a convinced pro-European politician, but I think that in the defense we should make better. And I'm really happy that our Lithuanian friend became right now a European Commissioner for Defense. But don't be mistaken. Today, without United States, we cannot survive. And that's the simple fact we have all understand and we have all respected. And the reason why United States today plays such an important role in defense is very simple. They spend through the years a lot of money for defense. If we will do as Europe the same, we will be in much more comfortable position in the future towards Russia and towards any other possible threats which could endanger Europe in the future. But it is one of the main challenges before Europe today. How, on one hand, satisfy the growing need of European electorates to have a more nationalistic policies. You will see tomorrow in Polish elections, that's for sure. But it's not only Poland. You see this growing wave of anti-European movements on one hand, but on the other hand, the reality around us should tell European people, hey guys, it's very nice to be German. It's even much nicer from my perspective to be Polish, to be Czech, to be French, but come on, we will not survive alone. Look at Ukraine's example. Ukraine, with all my respect, would not survive without the help of West. We need each other. And how to balance it? How to balance the unfortunate but real growing need of our electorates to have more nationalistic policies, to combine it with more deeper integration, especially in defense. This is a challenge for the leaders of enormous scale, for the real statements. Do we have such people in Europe? We'll see.
Small additional question, Michael. As I know, you work many years in Brussels, in European Parliament. From your perspective, is it possible to include Ukraine to EU military funds, as Ukrainian Minister of Finance proposed, I think, last week? What do you think?
You know, you are talking to a guy who is an author of a first ever document of European Union about Ukraine membership in the EU. I was an author of a Kamiński report back in 2007, and it was the first document ever adopted by the European Parliament in which was mentioned the future membership of Ukraine in the European Union. So I'm an author of this document. So I'm in favor of including Ukraine in every possible way to all possible European mechanisms. And with all my friendship to Ukraine, it is in the deepest interest of Ukraine to adopt as soon as possible, as much as possible, European rules, including all those rules who are applying to the public life, who are, you know, somehow with all the problems we are facing in Europe, dealing with the issue of money and politics, money and campaigns, corruption and politics. And this is the European model, believe me, it's better than other models. So as much you will adopt before the fact of the actual membership, it's better for you. Following the European example, it will be only better for Ukraine, believe me. That's actually the example of Poland. We were trying to adopt as many European rules as possible long before we were actual members of the European Union. And it was painful. It was very painful for many Poles. It was very painful for many Polish business people who were open for new markets, but the advantage of big companies from West was enormous in the 90s. We suffered, but we survived. And we are now as strong as you can see economically. So, and Ukraine, I think that's why the Polish example should be so encouraging for Ukraine. Polish example is showing you where Ukraine could be if you will join Europe, if you will follow this Polish example, and if you will be together in Ukraine, with Poland, Ukraine, together in the European Union, we will change the European Union as well. 80 million of us, my God, from one sea to another. Guys, it will be a new point of power in the European Union, the alliance between Kiev and Warsaw and Vilnius.
Thank you. I'm so inspired of your answer, and we are in Odessa, so let's continue to speak about money and politics. Rémi, my question to you. Ukraine has advocated for seizure of Russian frozen assets in Europe for years now. Is it a matter of judicial procedure or political will? And is it possible to do that, such as like that could be like a very tough and strong political message to Russia, and that is like maybe one of the toughest signs from EU on negotiation process? What do you think?
Thank you very much. Very interesting question. Not sure it's Black Sea specific, but before answering, I mean, of course, we are in Odessa, I agree. But before this, I would like very briefly to touch upon a few things that were said by colleagues here. Mikko, first of all, I want to say this is this Black Sea strategy adopted 2 days ago is already, operationalizable. So it's both a wartime and a peacetime strategy. And the wartime part of it is the short-term security action which is foreseen in it. That's in particular the establishment of the Maritime Security Hub. That will be a way for not only EU countries, but non-EU partners. And this is very important because it concerns Ukraine, concerns Moldova, it concerns Turkey, and of course it concerns as well Georgia, and even Armenia and Azerbaijan, to tell you frankly. So everyone is concerned, and it's the place where EU-specific information, in particular that given by the Copernicus system, which is, I briefly reminded, not everyone knows it, but we have a sentinel system of satellites combined with Earth-based sensors and maritime sensors throughout the world that is providing real-time data on the state of things on Earth and in the sea. And it is important to know that the strategy will foresee already the reinforcement of those capacity in the Black Sea region, and that will help. So there is no maybe a direct effect on demining in the EU frame, but it will support the trilateral agreement that is now existing and being operated by Romania, Bulgaria, and Turkey to demine the sea. So you see there are very concrete implications already today. 2 days after. The second thing is, of course, the information sharing that will be now extended to non-EU partners, early warning system, and what's something that is absolutely critical today. You were talking, Michał, about pushing back against Russian aggression. There is a specific component to monitor and protect critical maritime infrastructure, in particular undersea cables, and now you were mentioning energy, as well energy connectors. So you see this is a strategy that is very much focused on very concrete things in the short term. And of course there is a longer term aspect, as I mentioned, economic capacity, and the longer term aspect of the connectivity agenda as well, like digital, for instance, and other aspects. Now, Ivanna, you were mentioning the democracy support aspect. This is a dimension that is addressed partly in the strategy, but that will be more thoroughly addressed by the forthcoming European Democracy Shield. And I want to remind all, public consultations on this new initiative was started on the 26th of May, so it's recent, but it's also open. Every one of you can submit their ideas, and please encourage the strongest possible decisions that the EU can make to defend democracy. And I'm very confident that once the shield is adopted as a combination of means and instruments to protect elections and democratic processes, to promote media literacy, fact-based public debate, rapid response units to counter foreign information manipulation and interference, or support investigative journalism, which has a direct impact on your question because it is very much about corruption as well. I think once this is in place, it will be placed under the monitoring not only of the Commission, but also a specific committee, a special committee that will be created in the European Parliament. In a way, it can be also a model for our partners and candidate countries. So let's look forward to that aspect, to that new initiative that will be a very important one. And of course, I don't need even to say Poland to know that this is also very important for political processes that are now happening around us. So, so you see that the strategy is really a combination of modern means, data surveillance, local governance reform through the Interact program. Didn't have time to mention it, but encourage you to get more information about it, and narrative control under the democratic shield that will be able actually to protect not only in the very short term, hard security aspects, but in the longer term. Now, your question. I think we need to realize that the Russian foreign frozen assets, are already used, and a lot. We announced, I think, last month, a 1 billion arrangement between one member state and Ukraine to develop new, first of all, existing weapon system, but also work on research for new, more elaborated, sophisticated systems. This was funded out of the what we call windfall profits, meaning the interest earned on those assets. And let's not forget the ongoing 45 billion euro initiative to finance the Ukraine budget, which is a G7 initiative to which the EU itself contributes more than half, which is already and entirely funded out of the Russian assets. So let's not forget that they are already put to contribution. And let's not, of course, forget that in the very immediate future, I think the foreign support to the Ukraine budget is actually more than what this year, at least, Ukraine needs. So this is a good macro, I would say, framework. This is due to financial support for that, but also from how we have been able to put to contribution the Russian frozen assets. I think this is really important. Another aspect, finally, I want to say regarding direct support to the defense sector in Ukraine, it is that Ukraine is specifically part of the Rearm Europe initiative, what is called now Readiness 2030. Don't forget that under that, there is one thing that was mentioned by Michał, that's the more flexibility in fiscal terms to support defense spending in each member state. So we are departing from the stability and path growth that was invented in the conditions of the 2008 financial crisis to allow for more fiscal space for this defense spending. But also we have what we call specific safe instruments, safe meaning security for Europe, and this safe lending, which is based on borrowing on markets at EU level, will allow also to finance defense production and research and development, and Ukraine will have access to that money. So we're really in a very, very comfortable financial frame here. Plus, of course, and I think the European Investment Bank is in the room as well, I want to mention that the strategy, the white paper on defense, the Rearm Europe strategy foresees also, I would say, relieving certain constraints on how the our investment bank operates so that it can also support defense projects. So this is also important for Ukraine because already Ukraine benefits from EIB lending in quite a lot. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rémi, for your answer. And my next question to Marko, from Black Sea to Baltic. Russia has been consistently working on spreading its influence on the Eastern European countries, such as Romania, Slovakia, Hungary, as a part of its war of aggression. As a result, these countries are using EU instruments against the EU by blocking Ukrainians' membership, etc. How can the EU address international divisions and the growing alignment of a certain member states with Russia?
Yeah, it's a tricky question actually, that, and I think that we should zoom out if we want to somehow solve this. Because again, as I said earlier, this is a, Russia is waging a shadow war against the free world already for many years. And this is not only what we see visually, conventional warfare here in Ukraine on 1,000+ kilometers front line, but also day by day, political occupation is going on right now in Belarus, in Georgia, and they are attempting to divide us through different kind of malign operations within Europe. Not only in the eastern part of Europe, but also we have seen how they have, interfered into different processes, different elections from the United States to different European countries. And Russian strategy, obviously, is not only to annihilate Ukraine from political map, but also to destroy NATO, to destroy EU, to divide Europe and America. And this is a crucial point to understand, that if we want to effectively really stand up against Russian sabotage wherever it appears, we have to call it, we have to name it, we have to fight against it. And what is really missing at the moment among our allies and partners, I feel that we lack a will to fight politically, diplomatically, and also supporting Ukraine seriously, both in military terms, but also putting real sanctions on Russia to make sure that Russia is not going to succeed to destroy our world. Their aim is very clear. They have not changed at all their strategic goals. And this is where, their tactics always is. If they see opportunity, they move in, they move on, they try to test us in different situations, also on the Baltic Sea. Right now we see how Russia is actually intensifying their all sort of activities, from shadow fleet issues and incidents down to the challenging different countries, NATO countries, EU countries, flying in, out with their military aircrafts, and they're testing our resolve, they're testing our readiness to act. And this is why there is very important when it comes to question about, it previously was asked about the US and Europe. I argue that this is not only a problem for us, this is also a very, very serious issue for the United States. It seems perhaps from Washington that, or for current administration, that this is kind of distant issue or distant war, it's Biden's war. So no, it's, if Trump thinks that he can walk away from this war will catch him, because this has a global impact. Think about the situation around Taiwan, or in South China Sea, or in different other choke points in the world. So this is a critical why what we do in different parts of Europe, fighting back Russian malign operations, but most critically important is, and I conclude here, is that how to make sure that this strategy will really make its aims is that we have to have a very strong vision that Ukraine, Moldova can be members of the EU by 2030. Of course, Ukraine, Moldova should make their part, and I am more than sure that they do. If there is also our strong vision that Europe united and whole with Ukraine, with Moldova, and hopefully after that also in times to come Georgia and Belarus. This is completely different world we live in, and this is critical moment then we want to balance the raising threat from autocracies like Russia and China.
Thank you, Marko. Just a small question. Yesterday Sunday evening, I heard some gossips in Odessa. Just true or false? Is it possible that Albania or Iceland could also join the European Union? For instance, that's a gossips in the Rybasovska Street. So in 2027, is like earlier than Ukraine or Moldova. Or is it possible to make it faster? Because like that's also like risky and tricky to join in 2030, such as like after next election. And what Michael said, like after growing right-wing and far-right parties, is it possible to enter?
You know, I have heard also rumors that also Canada could be one day a member of the European Union. I have heard that UK is dreaming to come back. This is what happened just recently, that the agreement between EU and UK is a kind of the real, you know, example that we cannot separate. And those who want us to be separated, they are from east from here. I know that in Norway, upcoming elections also somehow will touch the topic of future possible, you know, new referendum in Norway. And I know that Iceland very seriously politically thinking about also about the EU. But the question is not about primarily the future of organization or union of European nations like the EU is, but this is a really critical question for all of democracies here in Europe and also in Northern America and in some other parts of the world, because those who try to destroy, they are serious about that.
Thank you, Marko, for your answer and your Estonian political and diplomatical leadership. Thank you. Ina Coseru, my answer to you. Russia intensified their hybrid attacks on Moldova and also to Romania, and we saw how they tried to intervene on your election, how they tried to intervene on the Romanian election. From your side, based on your experience, what is your recommendation to European democracies?
Thank you very much for your question. And actually, yes, we've seen an unprecedented pressure on the elections and the interference of the Russian Federation into the election process of the Republic of Moldova last year. We're learning from this, and we are sure that our lessons will be and are of very big value for the whole European Union countries. And it is important to mention that at least 10% of votes were affected by the money which came from Russian Federation. We are estimating hundreds of millions of dollars which came into the Republic of Moldova to buy the votes, to destabilize the political situation and disseminate propaganda. Propaganda was more successful in the vulnerable regions, and especially in the regions where people are speaking Russian language. So for us it is important to have campaigns in the languages people understand in order to keep them by our side and to keep them well informed about the benefits of European integration, rather than not reaching out to them and then radicalize these groups of the society. We were speaking earlier with Marko on planning some visits to the Republic of Moldova, and this is how Moldova looks today, with friends from many European countries visiting Moldova from the parliaments of the European countries and helping us to reach out to as many people as possible. Marko was a part of the delegation in March this year on the Nordic-Baltic 8 platform, and you had a very interesting visit to Gagauzia, which is very much affected by propaganda. So it is important to stay together. My main message would be to apply the slogan, like-minded people need to stay together. My personal opinion is that maybe there is not a proper moment for a political competition between pro-European parties, but taking into account how bravely Ukrainians are fighting for us, find the like-minded people with the same pro-European goal for our countries and stay together, campaign together, and be successful in front of the pro-European electorate. Moldova always was, since 2009 especially, was very clear with the message of seeing the Republic of Moldova in the European Union. But we also have an army. Moldova has an army of pro-European voters in the European countries. Our diaspora is very numerous, and we see how actively they mobilize from one campaign to another since 2016. For the last elections in Moldova, it was 330,000 votes. And you mentioned about Romanian elections, so there was an increase only in Moldova of the Moldovan citizens who have Romanian citizenship 3 times, from last elections, European elections, parliamentary elections, to these elections this year, presidential elections. So it is important to engage people in country, to reach out to all the citizens with messages on the benefits of European integration, to have independent journalism, because some of the financial sources were affected, like USAID, for example, and it's very important now in this very difficult security environment to not have in our countries independent media. It is of utmost importance. But also with our experience, we can share this experience with Ukraine and on engaging diaspora. And we need to be assured that for the next elections, we again reach out to all our citizens and they can vote in elections. So this is what we learned. But of course, all the support which was mentioned earlier, the support which we receive through different European programs, and especially economic growth plan support of 1.9 billion euro for the Republic of Moldova 25-27, which will assure the implementation of the interconnectivity projects, will be the moment of convincing, once again, the pro-European electorate about the benefits of European integration. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Ivanna, what are the risks of Ukraine becomes disillusioned with the EU due to delays in integration, and how should the EU respond?
Let me, before answering your question, just react to some of the things that have been discussed. I think that with regard to the question whether the European countries can get through the challenge of the Russian threat without the United States. I really believe that at this particular moment we have differences in the threat perception among the European countries. And those who understand the threat objectively and realistically, they have a much better preparedness and readiness to action. And that's what we are seeing, how also the developments are moving further west, like Germany has awakened, but we are not there yet in terms of actions that are needed in order to be really able to defend Europe by European nations themselves only. I think we have to act on assumption that in the nearest years, Americans won't be on board to the extent that they have been all the time. Nevertheless, we do have to work and try to do everything possible and impossible to actually on all levels to engage them as much as we can. In the meantime, working on the things that have been already established, announced, but have to be delivered upon. And this is, we are still catching up. Europeans are catching up, but not leading. And definitely that's the result of under-financing in the previous years and relying on the American defense shoulder, so to say. That's one thing. And secondly, I wanted to mention also with regard to the issue of the frozen assets. We are extremely grateful for everything that all the nations who have helped us over this period of time We are, and Michał, you are right. Our resolve would not be enough to protect the country. It's additionally your weapons and your support and your finances that actually backed up our resolve and our readiness to fight for our choice. But it's not, and a lot has been done. And yes, the proceeds from the Russian money are being used, but it's not the time to lay on the laurels. We do have to start taking the Russian frozen assets and paying for weapons for Ukraine already today. And this is something, this is the leverage that actually can be used against Russia to change Russian behavior, and we should not be afraid that that somehow will ruin the financial system of the EU. And with regard to your question, we have it might seem at this point, when we have like 80% or more than 80% of Ukrainians, you know, really wanting to get to the EU membership and to NATO membership, that this is irreversible. We know how much there is an emotional component in that. And obviously, if the dynamism and the dynamics of this situation, of our accession process will be slowed down, it's irreversibly will actually seed some concerns and will raise some voices here in Ukraine that will say, well, we probably need our own third way, or we will follow something, you know, something different. And that can be a part of the problem. And I see this already as a result, what we are seeing as an anti-American sentiment in the country right now, when we see that the current American administration is not responding the way we expected them to respond. So I think it's not only the question for the EU, it's the question for all of us here in Ukraine who do believe in the European integration, who do believe that this is important for us, for our people, to defend this, to explain, to go rounds and rounds of explanation, and even with the hard decisions that will have to be taken, we have to understand that the prospect of being part of Europe is much better than anything that could be offered to this part of the world. So I think it's not about what the EU would do. For the EU, it's not to lose the dynamics on their part, but for us, it's also to take a lot of, to make a lot of effort to make sure that we are sustaining internally this willingness to pursue the choice for which we are bleeding so badly today.
Thank you. I would like just to sum up and to finish our panel with the last question, which I will not to ask, but I would like that everybody answer to ourselves. Can we, I mean EU and Ukraine, can be doing more and better for a better future? What we can do with Russian frozen assets, reassure force, what we can do with tougher reaction for Russian hybrid war, which it realized in Europe, what we can do with sanctions. I would like to say thank you to all my panelists. I would like to thank to you and to give a mic to our organizers. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much.